Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Law of Attraction Life Coaching Podcast. I'm sorry that we went a couple of weeks there without a podcast. I have been incredibly busy, and I got to go to my best friend's wedding, which was fantastic. So that took up a whole weekend. As you can imagine, I was recovering on the Sunday, which isn't very good. And I've had a lot of work to do. I know some of you know from that I moved to Bristol recently, and when I moved to Bristol, I took on a full-time teaching job, and the big news is that I am quitting my full-time teaching job. I'm not enjoying it. It isn't allowing me time to focus on my business or see clients, and so I have decided to quit my current position and actually work on my business a bit more in Bristol and building that back up. So people who follow me from Cardiff, I will be coming up as soon as I possibly can. So I'll be putting on events soon where you guys can come and see me again and we can have a good chat as always. And also people of Bristol who have been waiting for an event, I'm really sorry about the length of time that it's taken me to get something sorted for you. I have been looking for a venue. I have found a venue now. And I'm just in the process of putting that on. So we will be looking at holding monthly meetings, at a venue in Bristol, which will be. I'm looking forward to meeting you all, and I'm sorry that it's taken me so long to do this. So yeah, the big decision is that I am quitting my job. The thing about it is I hold you guys to very high standards, and I have to walk my own talk. I talk about things, walking away from things that don't make you happy. It's not making me happy, and I'm walking away from it. So I am walking my talk. I am preaching. No, I am practicing what I preach, and I hope that you guys can, follow suit. If you're not happy doing something, then stop doing it and go do the thing that makes you happy, whatever that is. Okay, so housekeeping over. Let's get into the juicy bits, because today we are talking about sex. The big one. It's the big one. Now, I don't want to get too deep into this because I'm sure you're all adults and you know what sex is, and I need to go over that. But what I do want to talk about is how sex is used as a tool by a lot of people to validate themselves because they don't love themselves first. And this is something very common that I see. I have done it myself. Probably every single person I know has done it at some point. So, if this is something that you're doing and it's ringing true to you, don't feel ashamed, don't be embarrassed, because it is very common and most people have done it at some point in their lives. And I think that what's important to recognize is actually you can validate yourself, and until the day that you do validate yourself, you're not going to love yourself and feel like an excellent, fantastic person. So it all starts from the inside. So, I was at a situation this weekend where I was watching a young lady who I have known for a little while, and she was proceeding to make herself feel good by using the affections of somebody who was not a very good person. And in tow, she was causing herself a lot of problems. Now, me being the person that I am, I took her aside and I said, "What are you doing? You should respect yourself more. The person that you are going after at the moment has no self-respect and has no respect for you. And what you are doing is actually setting up a really devastating cycle where you're saying that I'm not worth anything and anybody who wants me can have me." And there's this kind of hollowness to the situation where you feel in that moment, this person likes me, they want to have sex with me, this validates me as a human being, I am worth something, somebody loves me. It's that feeling. But the truth of the matter is that person doesn't love you, and having sex with them isn't going to make you feel better. It's actually going to make you feel worse in the long run. This is that theory that I have about instant gratification. So we feel in the moment, I feel bad about myself, I feel unhappy. What I'm going to go and do is find somebody that's going to make me feel good in the moment. And so, you know, somebody's flirting with you, somebody's making out as if they're attracted to you, and you go and you follow that. And actually all that person is trying to do is to use you most of the time to make themselves feel better. And so it's that ideology of kind of a broken person attracts a broken person. And actually when you're feeling good about yourself and you have good self-esteem, you don't attract these really negative experiences into your life because you value yourself more than that. And so you put yourself up here, you say, you know, I'm worth being loved, I'm worth being respected, I'm worth only having sex with people that care about me and consider me as being somebody who's worth having a full relationship with. And when you're at this level, you don't do one night stands, because one night stands aren't, I mean, whatever anybody says, this is my opinion, I completely disagree with anybody who says, oh, you can have one night stands and it'd be fun. Certainly from a female perspective, one night stands are not healthy, in my opinion, for women. I don't think that we can disconnect. And I think that sex is always emotional for us. And I think that people that say that it isn't are kidding themselves. And I know probably in, you know, past, I've said this at points when I was younger, and I think I was kidding myself then. Women cannot have sex and not have some form of an emotional reaction to it. Men, I'm not so sure of. Biologically, they're much more likely to go kind of spread their seed, I think. How much of that is nature and how much of that is nurture? So I think what's important to recognise actually is that people that love themselves, who have good self-esteem, they don't want to go and have sex with any Tom, Dick and Harry because they value themselves more. And actually, because they value themselves more, they will make people wait, and they will make people you know, wine and dine them and get to know them and have a relationship start from a good point of view. Now, what I find a lot of the time is that when people are feeling bad about themselves, they go down these really devastating routes where they look for external validation. And external validation often comes from somebody flirting with you, being able to make money, having somebody chasing you. You know, we see this a lot with young men. If you look at kind of the stereotypical ideology of like 50 Shades of Grey, you know, this has been held up to be like the love story of the decade. And, you know, actually what this is a damaged person who has low self-esteem, which is Mr. Grey going after Anastasia. And she is, again, somebody who has low self-esteem. She doesn't think much of herself. Now, Grey looks like somebody who has it all, who loves himself, who has very high confidence, very high self-esteem. But actually, you'll notice that his, you know, constant desire to collect items, to be the best, a lot of that comes from an inferiority complex, not because he actually feels like he is the best. Now, why would somebody who had high self-esteem go after somebody he just met in such a demonstrative way and pursue her in such a fashion? It's sociopathic, really, isn't it? You know, this isn't a love story, it's a story of abuse, and it's a story of the melding of two very damaged people into a relationship which is supposed to be a love story, and it's not. And unfortunately, a lot of these kind of love stories of the century, these, you know, whatever, Cinderella, you know, Beauty and the Beast, all these kind of stories, actually a lot of them are quite detrimental when you look at the you know, the pathway behind them that has got them into the relationship in the first place. But also when you look at the system of mental health that's going on in the background as well of these stories, they're not stories of love and of happiness. So, you know, and if you look at Anastasia, why would Anastasia, a virgin, be approached by this man and start to fall into such a you know, devastating and actually dangerous relationship? You know, women or men that go after these relationships where they go and have sex with people that they don't know, that they've barely met, you know, meeting people on Tinder and things. I know that's a very common, you know, way that people are meeting, but actually this culture where, you know, you just flick through the screen, find somebody that you think's attractive, message them for an hour or something, and then go and hook up with them. What self-esteem do these people have? you know, that they're so cheaply sold. You know, and I know people say, oh, it's like, you know, a sexual revolution and it's okay and people are free to do whatever they want now. But I think it's immoral from that perspective. And I think that actually what we're doing is really devastating to your own mental health, because what you are doing when you go and have a one-night stand with somebody, or you pursue somebody that doesn't love you, and you allow them to use your body as a playground for their pleasure, which is what one-night stands are all about. And yes, it can be reciprocal, you know, not always is there this kind of perpetrator and there's a victim, you know, when people have convinced themselves that this is something they want to do, I would say that both parties are the victims, and not necessarily that is, you know, male or female or any gender roles that are going on in that. But I would say that, you know, when you are pursuing somebody that doesn't love you, doesn't want to date you, doesn't want to have time with you, doesn't want to take you out, doesn't want to have a conversation with you, literally wants to pick you off a screen out of a few others because they thought that you were, you know, whatever, attractive, and then go and have their wicked way with you, and then, you know, thank you, wham bam, you know, off we pop, and never contact you again. What parameters does that set up in your mental health and in your self-esteem as to what you're worth? You know, you go and do one of the most intimate things that you can do with another human being, where you share your body with somebody. You literally become spiritually one with somebody for a nighttime, and allow their aura and their spirituality to enter into your aura and your spirituality. And I don't just mean physically, I mean on a, you know, on a spiritual basis, on a you know, on a non-physical basis. And you allow this person to enter into you, and then what? Just leave, and you have no conversation with them anymore, and you don't talk to them ever again, you don't see them, maybe you don't even know that person's name. I mean, what parameters of self-esteem does that set up for you? You know, and like I said, you know, we had this incident with a lady I know, and she was just doing this the other night, and I was just horrified to watch her devalue herself so heavily. You know, and I suppose it triggers me quite a lot because of being there, and I understand what it's like from her perspective. But at the same time, it's like, what are you doing? You know, that way is not a way to increase your self-love, or to make yourself feel better about yourself, or to increase your self-esteem, or to validate yourself. You know, somebody that just wants to fuck you and dump you, that isn't validation. There's no validation in that at all. You know, actually what that does is it says that you are worthless, that you're okay for a moment, and then you're easily dumpable, you're droppable, you know, because these people don't contact you again. You know, I doubt that very many people on one night stands have been sent flowers, or have, you know, had love notes sent to them, or people who have been like, oh, I'm absolutely in love with you. You know, what people who want to be validated want to feel loved because they don't love themselves. So how does a one-night stand or a short-term relationship with somebody who has no concern, care, or love for you, how in the world does that validate you? You know? And I think it's because our culture is a lot built around, like, you know, if you're sexy, you're worth something. You know, physical attractiveness is the pinnacle, you know? And this idea of being hot, like if you're hot. But hotness and beauty are two kind of different things, you know, and love and sex are two different things, and there's a lot of crossover between them. But really, you know, you can be hot but you can be ugly, you know, and you can be hot and people can find you an absolute turn off, you know. And we've got kind of you know, if you think about kind of I don't know, Playboy bunnies, like how many men would actually want to marry a Playboy bunny? You know, they talk about, they give a good game about how hot they are, but actually very few men would want to marry a Playboy bunny. They want to marry a woman who is kind, who is homely, who is loving, who isn't like this kind of ideology of, and this is really non-feminist, so, you know, blow up the comment section if you want, but this kind of unsullied woman, you know. And as right or wrong as whatever you think that is, there's very few people that want to kind of sleep with a woman who has been overtly sexual. And, you know, when we were younger, it was always you were always warned not to make a name for yourself. You know, I know that it's crappy in culture that men are seen as the big man, the more people that they have sex with, but women are seen more and more like a slut or a slag. And I'm not slut shaming here. What I'm talking about is that when you go down this pathway, whether you're male or female or whatever you identify as, you know, you are setting up a parameter where you don't love yourself. You don't love yourself, you don't respect yourself, and you go out and seek other people who don't respect themselves and don't love themselves and are happy just to share themselves around like, I don't know, I haven't got an allegory for that. But, you know, they just don't care. They don't care about themselves. And I think that when you do begin to validate yourself, and that starts internally, that is something where you say to yourself, I am worthy of love, and I am good just the way I am. And, you know, I do a mirror activity with my clients, and I do it with 95% of them, because 95% of the people that come to me don't love themselves in some way, shape or form. And you know, when you begin that process of loving yourself, you won't accept somebody disrespecting you. And whatever anybody says, I'm very few people can change my mind on this, because I've lived both ways. And I understand the more I loved and the more I respected myself, the less likely I was to devalue myself in any way. So whether that was somebody who's speaking to me rudely, I'm out. I'm done. I don't want to have a conversation with somebody. If somebody treats me like crap, that's done. We're done. I don't have time for people that don't respect me as a human being. People who are violent towards me, aggressive towards me, they're not in my life anymore. You know, people who just wanted to kind of fuck me and leave me. I wasn't interested in that, you know. All these kind of things, these parameters that you set up, that you think like when you devalue yourself, you allow things like that to happen. Even things like within the workplace, you know, somebody asking you to stay on and do more work, you know, or underpaying you, or undervaluing your service. You know, somebody does that now. I mean, this is part of the reason why I've quit. So I'm being undervalued. I don't like it. I'm going. You know, I've got a lot to offer, and if people don't recognize that, then I'm not gonna hang around, you know, especially when you realize that tomorrow you could be replaced like that. And that's something that works within workplace, industry, in relationships. If somebody doesn't love you enough to value you, to realize that they can't get another you tomorrow, then that person isn't worth having in your life. And I find like with work, you know, a lot of people work jobs that they do because they need money, and they're in this kind of cycle that they don't like their job, they need work to get money, and they go to work, they feel undervalued, so they spend money, and then they have to go back to work to get more money, and it's like that. It's this kind of like circle. And it's the same thing that happens with people who don't value themselves with sex. You know, they don't like themselves, they feel undervalued, they feel underloved. They go and have sex with somebody that's a very temporary relief, as it were, of that feeling of lack of self-esteem. But then they come back down again. They feel really bad about themselves, so they go back up. They think, oh, I feel really bad about myself. What shall I do? They go and have sex with somebody, and it's this downward spiral that every time they go around this motion, it just goes worse and worse and worse. And by the time you get to the bottom of it, you're so depressed and unhappy because you have systematically undervalued yourself time and time again. You know, you will not grow self-esteem by having sex with strangers. You will not grow self-esteem by banging other people's girlfriends or boyfriends or getting this conquest list. That's not going to build self-esteem. You're not going to build self-esteem by getting job after job after job. And then, you know, you kind of devalue yourself. And this process of devaluing yourself, actually, you end up a lot worse than what you started off at. So the important takeaway points are, guys, you cannot have sex for self-esteem. It doesn't work, okay? Validation only comes from you, yeah? External validation will never, ever work. And if you chase that that mirage of external validation. Actually, what you'll find is you'll get into this cycle of having to always find somebody else to make you happy, and that is a really hollow cycle to get into that makes you very unhappy in the long run, because you always need somebody to tell you how bloody fabulous you are. You know, you always need somebody to say, yes, I love you, you're wonderful, you're attractive, you're beautiful, you're amazing. But if you get up in the morning and you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, you're attractive, you're beautiful, you're amazing, you're wonderful, anybody would be lucky to have you, then that's that job done, and you don't have to chase this mirage of some person who's going to tell you these things. So stop chasing validation from other people and start validating yourself. And that starts with you getting up in the morning and being nice to yourself and saying nice things to yourself. It's actually a lot easier than going around and having to, you know, find one night stands or, you know, get in arguments with people because you've just had sex with their boyfriend. And, you know, don't kind of get into this kind of hollow, you know, centered instant gratification of needing somebody else to tell you how amazing you are. Again, just it comes from inside. So validation comes from inside. Any external forms of validation are always going to be hollow, and you are always going to be in a catch-22 situation when you need somebody there to tell you you love them, they love you. And you can do better. You can do better. And the best person to love you is you. It starts with you. The day you get up in the morning and you start saying, I'm worth it, I am perfect just the way I am lovable, I am kind, I am wonderful. And for the people who want to be really negative down in the comments being like, oh, not everybody's perfect, I'm like, actually, everybody is perfect, perfectly imperfect. That's the human condition. And if you don't think you're perfect and you're putting that out into the world that everybody else is imperfect and you're an imperfect person and humans are imperfect, I think you miss the memo, actually how fantastic human beings are. And I think it's a shame that you would be so negative. So, good luck everyone. Don't have sex with people that you don't know. Don't devalue yourself. Find validation from inside. Love yourself first. And when you love yourself first, you will find the right person that loves you just as much as you love yourself, because you've modeled how to do that. And you will have a relationship that is happy and long-lasting, where you will meet your soulmate or the same ilk, and you will have a happy, fulfilling relationship, and you probably won't get an STD. Good luck, guys. Feel free to leave a comment down below. I would love to hear what you think. If you've got any ideas for podcasts that you would like, any questions, if you need any advice about anything, please leave a comment below. And if you've been through this cycle and you see down in the comments that other people are going through things, or you know you have some advice for people, then you know please get in there. It's not just me that gives advice to people. You guys can be a wealth of knowledge as well, and I'd love to hear some of that. So good luck, and I will see you soon. Bye bye. It's phenomenon. This is that phenomenon of, I don't think I'm saying phenomenon. Phenomenon? I'm not sure, I've lost all capability of saying that word now. This is that thing, I can't say thing. I think, but I'm not sure how much that is, you know, genetic, and how much of that is social culturing, social culture. How much of that is nature and how much of that is nurture?